Are you done?
Hey there friends, how's it going? My name is Lightning8. So today we are going to be talking about Final Fantasy 16. Yes, Final Fantasy 16 actually got a little bit of an update, and it actually leads me to believe we may be getting a very possible maybe release of the game in the near future. I will elaborate more on that later on, but yes, we did get a little bit of an update by Yoshi P. So let's dive straight into it. As you can see right here, Final Fantasy 16 producer Noiki Yoshida, Yoshi P, gives a small update to the 16th installment of the Final Fantasy brand. Basically, he gives a small update, but in a way it's actually a very big update. I don't know what to tell you. It's very interesting, all I can say. So let's look at it. So during the live stream for the Tokyo Game Show, Yoshida and Papa Sakaguchi talked about Final Fantasy 16, offering a small update on development. You may know Yoshida, Final Fantasy 14 producer and producer of Final Fantasy 16, Sakaguchi, the head of Mistwalker, which is recently released Fantasasian, widely recognized as the father of the Final Fantasy stuff. We all know the shindigs, they have to put that there to make the thing longer. So let's actually go into what was said. Sakaguchi-san mentioned that he feels Final Fantasy 16 is going to be a fully fledged fantasy. Yoshida confirmed that the main scenario is complete. Side quests are in development and almost complete, so there's going to be side quests. I'm sure we all kind of knew that was going to happen. Character models are also almost finished, so I cannot wait to see the new models. I'm sure that's pretty cool. And the team just needs to brush up on the quality a bit. Very interesting stuff. So that's quite a lot done, actually, to be fair. So I think it may come out next year. Tail end of 2022, like December or February, November time. November, I said February. November time for Final Fantasy 16. I'll get into that a little bit more later. So Yoshida-san continued by mentioning the initial focus was to produce the main scenario with a small team. While the total production period is quite long, the size of a team didn't increase much until plans were finalized. There was a lot of trial and error. Yoshida-san believes that it's important to start a small team and then gradually expand. Sakaguchi, the joking man that he is, said he'd offer to write a quest for the game, which honestly I think would be actually kind of nice. Call back to Final Fantasy 1, which you can argue that Final Fantasy 16 is kind of taking inspiration from, as well as The Witcher, you could say. And Yoshida-san mentioned that he could write a Final Fantasy 14 quest, but the father of Final Fantasy replied he wouldn't want to compete with Matsuno, who gave him 1 million gil to start Final Fantasy 14, and Yoko Taro. Please don't mess with Yoko Taro. The man's in his own league of... He's in his own league, yeah, basically. But yes, that is basically what was said about Final Fantasy 16. A big, small, big update, if you will. So what does it mean to all of us in the Final Fantasy mythos? Final Fantasy 16, what does it mean? It means, simply put, that Final Fantasy 16 is almost done with production. And once it's done with production, it just needs to... It'll be confirmed to be gone golden, and to print on the discs and all of that good stuff, to go on the digital stores, all of that stuff I really think is very much a given, and I think it can be done by next year. Now the thing is, Strangers in Paradise, Final Fantasy Origins Strangers in Paradise is releasing next year as well, but that's very early on in the year, March, so I believe like they can release Final Fantasy 16 at the tail end of the year, possibly, but they'll have to push back another title. I don't think Square Enix is the type of company to just push out like 3 major titles in 1 year. I think Strangers in Paradise wouldn't necessarily be said as a major title, but still it's a very interesting title a lot of people have on their minds, so I think a lot of people will buy that, especially those who are fans of Souls-like games like Bloodborne and all that. So I think people will buy that definitely. And then if they were gonna release Final Fantasy VII Remake, I guess it would be like midway through, like June, July, somewhere over there, and then Final Fantasy 16 at the end of the year. But I digress. I don't think Final Fantasy VII Remake should come out next year if Final Fantasy 16 is coming out next year. I think they can push back Final Fantasy VII Remake to 2023, not only because it'll help Final Fantasy 16, you know, get a much more wider audience focusing on that more, but also it'll help them to develop Final Fantasy VII Remake exclusively for the PS5. So not a PS4 version, but a PS5 version, because I know that a lot of people may want the Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 on PS4. So I think one way to ensure a lot of people have PS5s by then is just to push it back to 2023. Or maybe this is the initial plan, who knows. But anyway guys, that is my thoughts. I think it might come out next year. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Leave a like, helps me out a lot. Comment down in the comment section down below what you guys think. Share with friends, because sharing is of course caring. And most importantly, subscribe to come if a lightning bolt. Anyway guys, that is it for this video. And as always, this is Lightning H8. Blaze out.